Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So this week we're going to focus on how to obtain data from a USB and making an image. So let's say that if you need to investigate a USB, how would you do that in Linux? Next week we will work with Windows system using application like ProDiscover. So we will be able to analyze more on the content. I want to focus on copying the image and looking at the procedure like what we talked about in analysis or doing forensic on device. Okay. So if you're doing this outside of this classroom, you need to have VirtualBox. I normally use VirtualBox. You can use the VMware player, but in order to use your virtual machine that was created by Kali, you can download VirtualBox, right? So at home, if you do this, you would visit VirtualBox, and I put the wiki page. So if you use Mac OS, it will work with that, Windows, and then other Linux distribution. So you can download the application and install it, and then you use that to be able to run your virtual machine if you're not familiar with it. And VirtualBox is open source. It is maintained by Oracle. So I'm going to walk you through the process, but you can also make your own Kali Linux virtual machine. The one that we are going to use is the one that's already pre-made, because I just want you to save some time, but you can definitely create it. Okay. So in other class, it might address it. So in the first step, it tells you to go to Kali, and this is going to take you to the middle of the page where it shows the virtual machine download. Okay. Want to get a USB for our investigation today, and then check out Lab 2. So when you visit the site, you would find it's going to take you here. Now, Kali has many different versions. You can do a live boot USB that you can download it to a USB and you can boot it. So Kali Linux is used to do a lot of things in security, right? Like for ethical hacking, for forensic, and it has all the tools that are built in, okay? If you are like me, way back in the day before Kali was Kali, it used to be called Backtrack. And so before you see the Dragons logo and all of that. So the older version was called Backtrack 5 and 6. And then gradually it grew to be Kali. Now they do have certification. So if you want to do offensive security, you can pursue that. So like they have red team and blue team. So for the red team, you can look at offensive security. Hi, we just got started with Lab 2. Grab a USB and then check out the lab, okay? All right. So when you come here, you're going to click the arrow down to download, and it's going to give you the zip file. Now, you can go through torrent, and you have to install, right, BitTorrent or something like that to download. Before, they used to only release through torrent. Now you can download directly from their website. If you want to do the checksum, there's checksum there. And then their documentation is here. Now you have to know that Kali frequently change. One version might have a tool, and then because of the community for open source development, that tool might not exist again in 2 versions later, or it might change drastically. So you always want to refer to their documentation to kind of see. So the version that we're using is 2022, which is different than 2021, right? So they add new tools and they remove some of the tools that might not exist anymore. So once you download, you will find your zip file in the download folder like this. what you will do is you will right click it, choose 7-zip, and you are going to select extract files. So that's going to allow us to decompress the downloaded virtual machine. Now, some of you are very familiar with Kali and some of you are not. So this is a Debian Linux operating system. And when we're using a virtual machine, it simply is we can run an operating system inside an operating system through a software called VirtualBox. There are VMware Player, there are Hyper-V, there are many different softwares. So the common one you would see that's free is VMware Player and VirtualBox. So we're using VirtualBox. So after you download, you want to use the VirtualBox 64, which is 64-bit. Hi. Want to grab a USB and then we just got started with lab 2. Then once you have the zip folder extracted, you are going to plug in your USB. Okay. Now we're only doing this for the test so you can see how you retrieve a USB, and then you don't want to open up the USB. So on your system, if it has the autoplay, right? Like when you plug into a USB, it just open up and it shows the file. So you want to also disable the autoplay on your system to open up the folder automatically. So once you plug in the 4 gig USB that says CIS27A on it, you are going to go to your Windows search bar right next to your Windows button here. And you are going to call on VirtualBox. So type in VirtualBox. So you would see Oracle VirtualBox. Click on it. Now, when you use this at home, I recommend, in order to get USB to work on your virtual machine, you need to install the tool packages. Okay, because out of the box, if you just download and install the application, it doesn't have all the full feature. So VirtualBox will occasionally tell you, oh, you need to install additional features. And if you're not sure, you can always come back to their website. Let me move this real quick. To their website real quick. And you can go down here and you can find the extension pack. This allows you to have USB 3.0. So in the case where you are investigating USB that is 3.0, you have to install the extension pack. So the newer version of VirtualBox has that equipped. Sometimes you have a version that's not. So you got to make sure that you install the extension pack. Okay. Also, this is important. This is already, I had the team configure it already. So on your VirtualBox, you can set up different things, right? Now, sometimes virtual machines will come through as appliance. If you are doing an export and import of a virtual machine, it will be an appliance. So the way that Kali is releasing, they clone their virtual machine and they put it on the website for you. So you don't have to import it in. You're just going to add it because it is a file. But if they create an appliance, you have to import it in. Or if you make a virtual machine and you want to give it to other people, you can actually export it. There are several ways that you can take a virtual machine and replicate it for testing purposes, right? So you can clone it, you can import, you can export it out, and simply copying the folder might not work on VirtualBox. Okay, before it did, but the newer version, it's going to give you problems. All right. So we talked a little bit about VirtualBox. So once you're in VirtualBox, you want to click on Machine Settings and USB. So when I plug my USB in, only my native host system, which is my Windows 10, understands what that is. I gotta make sure that my virtual machine sees that as well. So I'm gonna click on Machine. I'm sorry. me track my step. Okay. Let's add it first. So if it shows this, that's okay, right? Just click continue. All right. So let's come back to that step for the settings. What you're gonna do is you are going to add a virtual machine. So what I did was I clicked the add button. And of course, MVC said you don't have permission. They implemented this recently. So you're just gonna say this. So what they're saying is you don't have access to the VM folder, right? But what you can do is you can go to your download and the extracted folder that you recently decompressed, you're gonna open that up and it's subfolder and you're gonna see this VBox file, okay? So when it is an appliance, you're gonna see a VDI file. So you have to do an import. When you are adding a virtual machine, it needs to be in a VBox file for VirtualBox. So you see a little cube logo, click on it, and you're gonna click open. Okay. So before we start it, you are gonna click on settings. Earlier, it didn't give me settings because it doesn't have any virtual machine set up. So after that, I'm gonna come back to this step right here, step 5, right? So I did step 7 first and then come back to 5 and 6. So I'm going to click on settings and it takes me here. You're going to go to USB. Now, you see this here is because they installed that extension package. Then you're going to click the plus symbol. I'm sorry, select U 2.0 and then click the plus symbol. So all the recognized USB is going to be here. So you are going to select the Tonfa one. Okay. And then click OK. So what we did there was we're going to make our virtual machine sees the USB. It automatically doesn't, right? By default, it's not going to see it. So you got to make sure you change your setting. Also, what makes your virtual machine faster is more RAM. So if you have 32 gig like this system, you can dedicate like 8+ on it. Okay. But I think 2 gigs and up is okay for virtual machine. You can run many virtual machines as long as you have enough supporting RAM. So if I'm doing 2 gig each, right, I can run at least 10. The more you have, the slower it's going to be, of course, right? All right. So once you have all of that set up with your USB, you're going to click start. And it's going to load, it's going to play your virtual machine. All the settings that you see here, it's kind of like your BIOS settings, right? So if you want to change, now we need to pre-configure before we start. If there are some feature that you can change while you're in it, but if you want to change like processor, how many processor you want to use for your virtual machine, you have to do it before you start it. Okay. So like storage and so on. Oh, I forgot to do that for you guys. Sorry. We will restart. The login is Callie. I did skip a step. Yeah, I forgot to do 6. Okay. So before we restart or we shut it down, right? So this is, see how when I added it, it's not mounted. Okay. It's Linux, even when it sees the storage component, it doesn't always mean that it's mounted. So what we have to do later on is we have to mount this so that way we can access it. In most OS, that's how it's supposed to be. Windows just specific that they made it simplify where it's pre-mounting as soon as you open it, right? But in Linux and other OS like Mac OS or BSC, you're gonna see that you have to mount your drive, even if it recognizes it. Okay. Now on your virtual machines, because your input is shared, So one of the ways that you can copy and paste from outside of the virtual machine into the virtual machine. So for example, like commands, right? Like I want to make sure the type is the actual command is typed correctly. I can copy and paste as long as I change my clipboard to bidirectional. They pre-configured that for you here because I asked them. For your drag and drop, you can do the same thing. Bidirectional means that I can take it from my native host system, which is my Windows PC, and bring it into the virtual machine and vice versa. So you have to pre-configure that before you use it. And that, you know, allows you to bring things in and out. Okay. But for USB, you have to make sure you mount it. So sorry, I had prematurely jumped on this. So let me do a shutdown now. You can also shut down from the right. So on other Linux releases, you would do a shutdown -0, which is 0 seconds. On the Debian one, you just say shutdown now. If you just do shutdown, it's going to count down 60 seconds by default. Okay, so we have to get comfortable with Linux. All right, sorry. So let's come back to VirtualBox. Go back to settings, and then we are going to go into storage. Okay. So we had added the USB earlier here, right? So we were saying this is the type of USB. Now we gotta say that this is a USB drive, a storage drive, because the system is not gonna understand what that is. It's kind of like installing it, right? So you are going to click the add a new storage controller, and then you're going to choose USB. Okay. And there's only one type of USB that you would see under the category USB. Okay. And then you would click OK. Now, if you're adding an actual hard drive, okay, like your HDD or your SSD, you have to use its image, and you can create an image with the VirtualBox. So the only way that the virtual machine player can see the type of disk it is through an image. Okay. So for us, that will be good here because we're just saying that it is a storage USB. So we are going to click OK. And then I'm going to power this back on again. So I'm going to click start. Okay. There are some features that it allows you to configure while you're on, but most of the hardware components you have to pre-configure before you start. Okay, so login is Callie is the username, and Callie is the default password for 2022. Back then they used to have root and then, you know, Tor, which is root backwards, but they changed that to Callie now. And you can find that on the website, right? If you go here, it tells you right here. You can change it. All right, so this is our virtual machine. So we are here and we already started. So we got our virtual machine working. Now we're gonna go to part B. We logged in and we are going to use the command line in Callie, which is the terminal. And you would see the black square box. You're gonna click open. You can change this to your preference. I'm gonna make the font a little larger so you can see. Let's do 15 is good. Okay, so most Debian terminal is kind of similar. They all use the same command. That's what's great about using Debian family, mostly close, right? Compared to Fedora, Red Hat, or others, or like Arch Linux, it's a little different. So what you will do is you are going to open up gparted. And gparted is going to give you the drive partition table. We will get more in depth in storage drive and in forensic. So as I am on as a regular user in Kali, as a Kali user, I have to retype the password. Kali. K-A-L-I. So gparted is a graphical user interface that shows you different partitions. And so when we say partitions, is section of the drive. It's like partition in your house to make rooms, right? So we can have a partition that would represent a drive that is bootable or not, right? So you might have many drives. So in a realistic case for the investigation, you might have a hard drive that have many partitions, one for backup, one for OS, and so on. Remember that the first mounted partition for your OS is your SDA1. Okay, you see that here? And it tells you that this is what I'm using, 80 gigs. Okay, the file system for Linux, for Debian Linux, is ext4. Okay. So what I want to do is after I open this up, I want to answer this. What is the file system? You can find that here. This is different than your Windows file system. Your Windows file system is NTFS for new technology file system, or file allocation table, which is seen in your USB. The reason why they use FAT is compatible with all OSs, including Mac OS and Linux. Okay, NTFS is only for Windows, and Linux is ext4. There are others, of course. So this is the next version before they used to use ext3. So now it tells you that the total drive that we're using for Kali is 80 gigs, 80.09. You know that it used like a little bit of the megabyte to use it uses for overhead for the cache for the mount in the boot. And then now the way that we partition Linux, you can have like one section for home, which is like your documents in Windows equivalent. And then you can also have like one section or one partition for boot. There are many ways to do that, but in this case, everything combined as this. So it's used only 13 gigs or 13.84. And then we have unused. Unused is different than free space. Okay, don't mix them up. Unused just mean that in that, so it's like this. You cut up the house into many sections, many rooms, right? And then in what, let's say in your master bedroom, you only use up a portion, that you put a bed and maybe a table, right? So a quarter of your master bedroom is really occupied. There's empty space. So that empty space in your master bedroom is unused room space. Okay. And then in the same house, you might have sections of the house that are not partitioned for anything yet. Right? That is free space. Okay. So distinguish between the two. Now in Windows, they also like to say unallocated space is different than free space. Unallocated space is simply a space that we haven't cut up for anything yet. Where free space is something that we section, but we haven't, it's like a part of your house that you kind of divide, but you haven't decorated it for anything, like a family room or a dining room, right? So there's a distinguish between that. So when you look at the drive in analysis, you got to make sure that you understand the difference, because what happens is people would hide files into slack space, and slack space is space that's seen by the OS, but it's not used by the OS. Sometimes it could be free space, but it could be the space in between the use and the free space. And I just confuse everybody with that, right? You will see later on. Okay. So on here, you would see that there is our USB here. So if you want to check that out, you would check the drop-down menu and you would go to the 4 gigs. So as you can see, it tells you this is FAT32-bit. Most of your USB in the market, it's FAT32. it is compatible with all OSs. Okay, so when you deal with USB, it's FAT. Out of the box, unless you format it as NTFS or other file system. Anybody know what FAT64 is? So you can have a FAT64 bit, which is newer, but in the industry, we call that EX-FAT. That is the extension of FAT32, which is FAT64 bit. Faster. And you do see drives that come like that. So sometime if you buy external SSD, which I have, like if you buy the Kingston one, you would see that it is the EX-FAT instead of FAT32. It operates much faster. And inside the housing is actually solid state. Instead of, you know, your hard drive that or the hybrid drive that spins and then it's housed with a USB adapter. I'm very, like, I love hardware. So like whenever I try to tie things together, it makes so much sense. I love it. Like if you get to know hardware more, a lot of the things you use make sense. Okay. All right. So here it tells me that why is it not 100% 4 gig, right? I bought a 4 gig drive. It's going to be a little bit less because some of it is used for the firmware, right? To be able to see the USB. And then, so you're not going to have 100% capacity on the drive. And on the Linux, right? Even if I have some files on there, you notice that it doesn't say anything on the gparted. It says it won't see it. Okay, so some software will be more clear and used and unused for other file system. On the gparted for Linux, it doesn't give us a detail with them. Okay, so answer those questions. And on mine, when I did this, it shows SDB1, but it might just be SDB. So I highlighted same, right? So it might be SDB. And if your partition is bootable, it's going to tell you that it is bootable. Okay, so if we switch back to this, right? This one is used for ROSs. So you would have like the amount for the boot drive or the boot partition on itself. Okay. You know, they don't divide this up into different sections because they didn't manually set it. But when I install Linux, I like to manually set up my partitions. So you have to customize it. And if you really know Linux well, you can use that. Okay. Versus just have it automatically create the section for you. Okay, so this one is a no for C for 14. And then what you want to do is you can close the interface and then you are going to open up the fdisk. This is L, okay? So once I click close here, I'm going to come back here. Sorry, let me move this down. I'm going to open up my terminal, or I come back to the terminal, which was already open. So we are going to do a sudo, which stands for super user do, because I'm on as a regular user, but I want to elevate my privilege to be able to run fdisk. So Linux is really good at tightening down user in the user group that they are not going to be able to do a lot of things, including installation or activate or use administrative application. And as you are logged on as a regular user, Kali, it's going to ask for password. So it won't show the cursor blinking. You just got to type and make sure you type it correctly. If you did, it's going to prompt you again. Question? So just like the other one, but we do see a little bit more details in our fdisk. Okay, fdisk is commonly used in all OSs, so it allows us to see the format for our partitions. So here's your Kali and here's your USB. So this is standard. Oh. If you want to repeat the command, you can press. You can press the up arrow key. Okay. So the unit per sector is going to be 512 bytes. Okay. So when you inspect a disk, especially for this area of security for forensic, you got to take a look at how the drive is divided up. So you have a 512 byte for per sector. Okay. And it tells you that this is DOS. So it sees it like a Windows because it's fat allocation table, right? Allocation table. And then your disk identifier. Other software, they also give you this, but a little bit more detail. So we want to have the logical sector size and your sector information. So print screen. So when you do investigation, it's always good to print screen so you can go back and, you know, write down your report later on. And then look through fdisk information, right? It tells you your boot start, the end, how many sectors, the size, and the ID for the first drive, which is the OS. For the second, which is your USB, because it doesn't have the images on it, it's not bootable, so you don't have a lot of the details. And it's also because it's FAT. So Linux sees some things in FAT, but not all everything. Okay. So put down your answer. Question. Okay. All right. So the next part is going to be, we're going to try to mount. So in any OSs, anytime that you mount something, you should make a folder. So when we say mount a drive, you want to take a drive and link it to a folder. Okay. Why is that? Because as a human, I want to look at a container, which is the drive, so I can open up the folder. So for example, I can mount a drive to a folder, my drive F. So in that, I can share that folder with other user and be able to have them access that drive, right? So what you want to do is you want to make a folder. So we're going to do a super user do make directory. And we are going to put the folder called USB drive under the media directory. Now, yes. You just got it running? No, for your virtual machine, you mean? Okay, so for the rest of you, go ahead and get started with this. Oh, you're not. Yeah. Where's your laptop? Download that too. So you just finish. Then you're open up VirtualBox. Before you so you're gonna USB drive or something like that. Yeah.
What's that? That's another for virtual machine. Okay. Yeah, because you can log in or use VMware.
Oh, you can put it in. Okay. Wait, just open it up.
The partition, all that, I do a lot.
Yeah, I don't think you did it correctly. Go back, read down right here.
Everything, and I will configure it.
Not
So
the
put more,
installer.
yeah, more RAM.
Go back to your last.
2 terabytes, 10 terabytes, yeah, 10 to,
Take you directly to the virtual box. No, the arrow.
my data.
Follow the instructions. That is-
I tried, I was trying to.
Once you download that, you're gonna extract that in the download. Don't open.
You're right, awesome version.
It's gonna go, yeah, it's gonna go to the download folder.
Right, hard drive. Oh, okay.
Open up your download folder.
You wanna, like, repack this stuff in download virtual machines and then run multiple.
So it's
But I think you're on that. I do. Okay, after one I use it. Okay. That's fast. Prestigious. Four hundred. There's enough, all the. Okay, so it's not hard drive? Yeah, no, there's really. It's all, for. Generation of the big huge. One is two.
Go back to the lab.
2, 1, and one.
So what you did there was you did know that you did the download. Now in your virtual box.
Third generation, but most of it's all fourth generation. What GPU do you have on? Huh? What GPU do you have on? How they call ASUS. Yeah, SQ60, I don't have it. Oh, the NVIDIA? Yeah, NVIDIA 260. The 36, yeah. 15 months. That's with the pretty good. The RGB. I put that out. When did you get it? I get it when it was. It's 600 bucks for that, just for that. Yeah, it was like, people were, selling gold stuff. I know if I two, I got one, so I could sell it more. So when I give it like, I give it 400. And I got a receipt, still have.
So follow the steps, do not skip the steps. Okay, all right, any questions? Okay. So next we are going to create a mountable folder and then we're gonna do a mount, okay? Yeah, sometime when you paste, it's adding all the extra symbol from Microsoft Word, so. Okay, so how do I know it made the folder? You can use the file manager to go look for it, right? Or you can go into the media directory and then find that folder. Okay, so then I think I did put a step for you. So let's do 1 second. Let me double check here. Okay. All right. So on the next one, we are going to do a mount. So we're going to take our USB and then tie it to our folder that we made. Okay, on one command with the hashtag. Okay, you can type it and you can paste it. Okay, it's not going to show you anything. If it's successful, it won't show you any error. Okay, so that's how you mount a drive to a folder. Okay, then you should always organize your cases in folders. Okay, so we would have case 1, And then, so what you want to do is you're going to make a folder called case1, and it's going to belong to your home directory, which is like documents in Microsoft Windows, right? So we are going to do a make dir or make directory. And you would just call it case X, right? Case number 1. Once you make the folder, you want to move into it by doing cd case 01. So notice that your path changed. So here you access it. Okay? Yeah.
So why do you put the pound sign?
So when you mount a drive, right, because it's a drive, you would do the hashtag.mount because it's an actual lower level command.
Yeah, so like what does it do with that?
So it's going to take your USB, which is connected. We enabled that earlier because it's not yet mounted. It's going to make it accessible and it's going to tie that to your folder.
Yeah, that's like the mount. But talking about the hashtag stuff.
For the hashtag itself?
Yeah.
It's allowing you to point it to the destination to the left. So I could do it in 2 with a pipe, or I can just tie it to the destination using that. So then you would have a case. So now we're in this case, right? And what we're going to do next is we are going to use the DD, which is, I give you some details here, right? DD is basically used in Linux to copy files. So we want to copy what's on the USB to our folder. Now you are going to chunk it into 2 GB each. Why do we do that? Is because when you have a very large drive, you are going to, it's going to take a very long time to be able to build the file for a very large drive. So ideally, we would want to limit it to 2000 megabyte or 2 gigs. That allows you to copy more, right, of the disk into small segments of your storage, your system. We don't evaluate the USB. We are going to make an image of it, and so we can look at it. Okay, so the practice is that you take the drive and you mount it and you would copy it as an image, right? So see how it's going to be here. So your system drive backup .img.gz here is a Linux image type of file. So it's going to go in as the gzaa file. Okay, so you can name it whatever you want there. Now, when you're doing a pipe here, all you're doing is you're combining multiple commands in one line. So in Linux, I can type this separately and then press enter, and then I would do here, and then I would do that, and and so on. But we can do it all in one line by piping it so it understands that we are going to use DD if it is a USB. So make sure it's SDB, don't use SDB1. Whatever the drive would be, we are going to convert it, right, from and then we are going to use the zip to copy and split it into 2 GB each as an image file. Okay. Now you can make it a larger chunk, but ideally this is simply just streamline the process for us. Okay. So the longest part is this step. Okay. And this is the same in everything that you do for forensic, is when you make an image and then read the image sometimes takes a long time. So if you have a powerful system, this process is quick. Our virtual machine is limited, right? On it, you are on a single processor with a 2 gig of RAM. So it's like running a slow system. So it's going to take a bit. So just after that, you're just going to hang tight and wait. And that's usually the game. Okay. So once you're done, you're going to follow this step. You're going to go to the home icon on your desktop. Okay. So I can even close this. You can also go to computer places. There are many ways to navigate this. But you would go to the home icon, then you're going to click on file system on the left, and then you're going to go down under file system. You should see your image file created. And I want you to screenshot that. So after this point, what we can do is we can take that file and we can use a software to read it. Okay. Because if you go in and you start opening the files on the USB, it changes the state of that USB. It changes the timestamp on the files, and it contaminated our artifacts. Okay. All right. Then after that, what I'm showing you here is you can also look at your home folder and look at your case folder, and you're going to do an ls-al. That allows you to view the content of it at the low level, and you should see something there. And then once you finish, you can shut down your virtual machine. What I want you to get is from this exercise is some of the procedure that we do in forensic, right? We make an image, and this today you learn it through Debian Linux, Kali Linux, which has DD tool. Most Linux OSs do. And that's very popular for forensic, to copy file. And how you can use this. So in the case, if you need to investigate an incident, like somebody brought malware in through a USB, right? You don't want to open up the USB and look. You want to make an image and use a standalone system to test it. Or, you know, if you're interested in forensic or you want to do this for personal use, whatever, right? Put some information there. And then the best practices, I talked about this all day already, right? We don't open up the USB. We use an image. We create an image and copy it. And talks about mounting, how you mount a USB in Linux, and how you would create that image. Okay, so at this point, we wait for the image to write. So 4 gig, when I tested this, it's roughly like 15 to 30 minutes. Yeah, so you did so you created a zip, an image file. Yeah, you put it in the case one, so that image file knows. Once you press enter, it's gonna chunk your image file. Change this to change the FTB1 FTB. Open. So you need to, do step 19 and make sure that you push pre-configured USB. It started. If it's not, it's just, I'm pretty sure. If it's just show your cursor there, right, without any error, because if there's an error, Linux will let you know, right? Like if you didn't have the right drive or the destination, it's gonna say, oh, I don't know what you mean. So if, unfortunately, terminal is not like the most friendly to human, right? So, you know, in the case that if you hit Control-C to cancel, it does show some status, how many files it actually write out. Okay, but give it some time. You're doing okay? All right, we got your back. Yeah, so the petition is just a section. So it is the same paragraph. It's kind of like I make a whole house a room. Right? Yeah, use SDB, not SDB1, right? When I wrote it, I had a typo or putting SDB1. Yeah. Yeah, type in Callie for your password. Type it again. No, that's it. Just type KALI. It doesn't change your cursor. Linux doesn't do that. Okay, it just assumes you type correctly. Yeah, so when you look, it's gonna tell you, right, this is your USB, right, and this is your OS right here. So it's two separate partition or section, drive, volume, right, so this is your, the Linux you're using, this is the USB or you connect. Yeah. Yeah, so it made it actually. That's fine, yeah. Yeah, don't do the SPV one, SPV. So up arrow, and then move the cursor to. No. No, no, and then move the cursor to the end. Use your arrow key. Yeah. Okay, so you're gonna go to the module. Then go down to the video, the lab, download it, the arrow. If you do at home, you don't need to read the first paragraph, or you just have to download Virtualization and install it. And once you do that, you will follow the steps. I'm sorry? Enable edit and then follow the steps. So you already have the Virtualization start with step 1. Yeah. Any other questions? There's snacks if you're hungry. I'll walk around and check on. Yeah. When it's done, it's gonna give you some output there. Yeah. I scanned, I did a 32 gig when I tested this, and it took me like a few hours. So I'm assuming a 4 gig is gonna be less, right? And when I read, like 2 gigs will probably be a better deal, but when I bought USB bulk 4 gigs, the standard, right? So, all else, if we get closer to later on, we just cancel it. The whole point in this is gonna take time. So when you investigate, you can't disrupt, right? The system. So ideally, if you run this on like, a 12 core with a 32 gig RAM. So that's why when you buy a forensic desktop, it has to be. So on the virtual machine, by default, it's a single processor, even though you have multiple cores. It's gonna give the virtual machine one processor, and then whatever RAM that you dedicate to it, I think they give it 2 gigs. So it's like using like an old Intel system with 1 core and running 2 gig of RAM on it. So it's good. So if for those of you who are interested in later on, if you want to do this on the virtual machines that you want to change the core, of course you go to settings. And if you go to system, you got to do this before we start. And what you want to do is you can change, right? We dedicate, and then you can go to processor. Here, let's say if your system have 12 core, you can dump maybe 4 core of your regular processor into it. So when I teach Python that does parallel processing, I normally have my student change this to multiple core so that way it uses different core to execute different functions. So this is how you can make it faster, right? But I want to show you that on a slow machine, when you do forensic, you gotta wait. Okay, this is the game in this field. But if they pay you good money, to wait for the big money. Did you have a question? Oh, did you test? So it did write some when you hit control C, basically that was beautiful. You would just type if you want to do it on arrow key to see. And then just, yeah, you can't, so you just minimize it and then you can type into the Word document that if you start typing. Because it's interfacing between, right? It's able to type, you can type outside and things. Don't worry. Yeah, so it's gonna work. Oh, and then you have to wait for that to do that.
Oh, you didn't have it?
Yeah, so
Not everyone.
ideally, if you have multiple systems, you would do an image of it, right? And then you want to use a powerful system for that, and then you can use that same system to do it. So in many cases, they would do a multiple copies, so you can run it on multiple systems with different software, so you can have validity, right? So that would be the case, but in a lab, they would have many.
Yeah.
Be like 1, 2, 3, 4, that's like different, next stop requirements.
Oh, yeah.
It's a down part, but having this.
Yeah, I know. Got a lot of problems. I could learn like something we can add. I was, I built my computer like a week later, find out that it was generation. Intel. Yeah. I have. And what's the generation?
It's already.
Okay. But I find out because my heart, I mean, it's a fourth generation. Didn't work as supposed to because of it's built as empty, you know, that's the fourth generation. So in order to do that, I would have to be 11 generation. So I have to
So
write,
Linux is case sensitive, but sometimes white space means the separator doesn't like it.
yeah, but it's faster. It's faster than it was that generation.
I7,
It probably
11th generation is better than
Yeah,
I9.
I know. I was like, I didn't know
But
that.
also there are different model in the processor. So if you using, you know, something that's less, it's benchmark less. then
I checked out. I thought it was better, like, oh, I.
Yeah.
So I switched it with this one, and it's way better.
Of course.
And then I was saying, like, and after I built my computer, a week later, it come out the 12th generation. But
Yeah.
The DDR5 is too expensive still. Like $200. The DDR3 5. Yeah, that's the
Five.
US. Yeah, bye.
Okay, so we're gonna go until 7:15, 7:20. If you don't see anything, Control C to get some kind of information. But the point in this is you gotta wait till the raw file is done, and it's gonna give you that zip file or that system image. And then you would take that and you would use a software to read it. And you can also use that in Linux, and we'll talk about that next time. And then we're gonna use another software next time to actually is gonna be able to evaluate the content.
So the whole time, like you have to say, it's like 1.1, and that's what it is. You can go past that, so it's too hard. You can, it's really.
So while we wait, let's learn a little bit more about gparted. Okay, because I know some of you are waiting. Most of you are. Okay, so for Linux, we should be comfortable with using commands, right? Now, for in like any partition table interface, you should, in Windows, you have this too, through the computer management console for your disk management. You can also size it up and down. Okay, so if I want to shrink this down, I can do a resize as long as it's mounted. Okay, now be careful when you resize OSs that you're using. It sounds scary, but it's doable because you want to also back up the important data before you do that in case it crashes, especially Windows OS does that, right? But you can also do, you can unmount it. So you can right click and select on the G part and you can size it. So it's like cutting down to smaller sections. So if I need extra space on here, I can do this. Now in VirtualBox, let's say that I want to add a disk, you can. Okay, you just gotta create it with an image, like a Linux image or whatnot. So what you can do is you can go into settings, and for the storage, just like what we did before, right? And it needs to be not on, so you can add this and then create a disk image. So what it does is it's gonna write it as a VDI file, and it's gonna read it as a storage image. It's like an extra drive that you physically installed on your computer, like a hard drive for your data or whatnot. And then after that, you would mount it so that way you can put data or, you know, different things to it. So that's how you can use the VirtualBox with the gparted to be able to manage your storage. Okay. What else do I want to share with you? I think they locked this down pretty good now. From Polly. Oh, they do let me see it. Okay, so on the Windows side, you can go to Computer Management Console. Windows, Microsoft uses Management Console. And you can see your partition. Of course, I don't have the rights to do this because I'm on as a regular user. But you can do the disk management console, which gives you a similar layout. It will tell you the operating system. Now, Microsoft does not recognize ext4. So if you have a drive that has Linux OS, it's going to say unknown. Okay. So. So in this class, we would use various Linux-based tools, and we would use Windows-based tools. And so some of the application, the third-party application that you see does work with Mac OS, but you often see that in this particular part of the field, we would mostly use Debian Linux and Windows operating system. So ideally, you should use OS on the native system. Like you can install Kali or even Debian Linux like Ubuntu on your desktop or on your laptop, but you can also run virtual machines. Just gotta make sure your resources are there. Okay, so while you do that, I'm gonna stop recording.